Tech Effect.
Welcome to Tech Effect, a monthly podcast series brought to you by TestDevLab. I'm Adrian, the host of the podcast, and together with industry experts, we provide discussions and advanced insights about trending topics in software engineering. Don't miss out on new episodes, and let's keep advancing our skills and knowledge set.
Hello everyone, and welcome everyone to today's episode of Tech Effect. We're excited to have Gints Ozoliņš. And hello. He's a CTO of Indexo, and he brings over 19 years of experience in IT management, correct?
Yes.
And you have worked with a lot of different major organizations.
Yeah, over the years, yes, I've been mainly in telco and banking industry, but also in between I worked in the services industry, IT services.
Okay, so for people to understand, he's been working with like Nordea, Tele2,
Yes.
and also Cognizant, if I'm correct, right?
And Tieto.
Yeah. So now you are CTO of Indexo.
Yes.
And you're leading development of innovative technologies behind Latvia's newest bank.
Yes, so I can tell a few words about Indexo for those who are not familiar.
Yep.
So Indexo is a well-established pension fund manager in Latvia, and it has entered the market around 5-6 years ago, and it was really challenging the financial management of the pension system, and I think has brought a positive change for almost everyone who is paying taxes and accruing for his pension, because with entrance of Indexo, we have reduced the commissions and also we have introduced the passive fund management, and in the long run we can see that it has changed, and it will actually make a bigger pension for quite a big portion of Latvians. And now we are trying to do the same in the banking services, where we saw a couple of years ago that there is lack of competition, and there is, even though there are quite many banks, there is a kind of oligopoly of 4 largest banks, and we saw that there is an opportunity to also challenge and make a change in the banking market, and which we now successfully have done. So we got the license in May, and then in August, end of August, we launched the retail banking services in Latvia.
That's cool. Okay, let's take a big step back and let's focus a bit on your part.
Yep.
So, what experiences and decisions led you that you are today, for example?
You mean in terms of Indexo or technologies?
Yeah.
Or
In terms of how did you end up in Indexo from your
okay.
side?
Yeah. So I knew that Valdis Siksnis, who is one of the co-founders and CEO of Indexo Bank, I knew him since basically times he worked in Nordea, and a couple of years ago we just discussed, and Valdis said that he plans to considers to enter the banking services, but then the COVID came, and so it was a bit of a pause. I was actually at that time working in Sweden. I was for 3 years, and then he basically called me and asked if I would like to join Indexo to build a bank. So I was actually for the banking service. There was a pension enterprise, but for banking enterprise, I was the first employee that joined.
And how did you? What inspired you to join Indexo? Because you just said he called you one day and like. Let's
so
go.
it's I've been first of all, I always find it interesting to kind of explore new things, and that is also one of my recommendations for everyone in like people always, or not always, but quite often strive to kind of for vertical career growth, but obviously there are limited opportunities always to climb up. So, and for me, it's always been very interesting to also explore new areas. So I have been typically working in one place like 5 to 10 years. So if I commit to something, then I want to understand, I want to make a change, make a difference. And in my previous role, I felt that I was in Cognizant more than 4 years, and then I felt that there is something new, and also it's different to manage a large delivery organization with several hundred people than to kind of enter a startup and build.
Yeah, because at that time it was basically brand new bank, right?
Yeah, it was totally. We started from zero.
You mentioned that you like worked for you were like loyal, right? That 10 years to one company, and then you work for another company.
Yeah, no, I mean I've been in every company 10 years, but like yes, I mean when I say I like to explore other, it doesn't mean that you need to explore every second year.
What would be the 3 values that you live by every day, based on that?
I think that commitment is one value in the sense that if you decide to do something, if you like make a decision, then I think I'm quite committed to live by that decision. Then for me, one of the values is openness. Also, I think it's important to be able to tell what I think, and I also expect others to do the same. I don't want to kind of So it's difficult to name a value, but like I'm interested also in a kind of in a growth, in a kind of sense that
you always need to push yourself more.
Not necessarily. Basically, exploring things, learn something new, and
creativity side.
Yeah, so that it would be difficult for me to be in very.
How about discipline?
Sorry?
Discipline. And
I think discipline is important. Actually, one of my previous, he was Tele2 Sweden CEO. He had an interesting saying: "Discipline creates freedom," which initially sounds a bit strange, but if you think about it, it actually does. Because if you are undisciplined, then you are driven by events and.
So would that mean that? Do you believe that discipline and persistence would be the ones that shape the success of a company? And if yes, then why?
Well, it's difficult to say that out of a context that company lives in. I mean, sometimes the too rigid discipline might lead to lack of innovation or creativity and missing some opportunities. But generally in IT, I mean, there are different IT processes and like new product development and development in general. Initial phases requires more creativity maybe, but then
so it goes
operations
hand in
and
hand.
Incident handling also requires very rigorous discipline. So it's changes.
So when you first got in the Indexo as CTO, what were like your first steps that you took to build up Indexo's infrastructure from the ground?
So basically there was nothing.
There was completely nothing,
except the idea that we need to build a bank. One of the first things was to kind of agree and understand what would be the initial service proposition, what are our target customers, what products we would like to bring to market. And that was quite clearly that we wanted to focus, we wanted to make a change in Latvia. We might go to other countries sometime in future, but at the moment we want to make a difference in Latvia. We understood that there is an opportunity to work with residential customers and basically starting from basic banking services. And of course, to enter the retail banking, in a way, you need to climb quite high to get on an equal base with others. I mean, you need to have payments, cards, current accounts, all the basic infrastructure, regulatory reporting, which is nowadays
what would you
complex area.
What would be the biggest technical challenges that you faced at the start while launching Indexo?
I think well, initially it was kind of translating that what we wanted to do into technical solution, and there was a. I mean, obviously, if you start from zero, you don't want to kind of take some legacy, well-established systems. On the other hand, you need to differentiate between what's really working from the newest technologies, what is a hype, and kind of, and also everyone is talking about various technologies and like cloud nativeness and AI, etc., etc. But if you actually want to build a cloud native, complex cloud native solution, then it turns out that there are not so many experts in Latvia that can do it, and so it has been a learning path. I would say that making it work in cloud, in Azure, we selected Microsoft Azure as a cloud platform.
So you have the cloud platform. The main one is Microsoft Azure.
Yes, I think that.
But why exactly the Microsoft Azure? Because there are others as well.
Yeah, well, we didn't. Well, we did obviously some comparisons, and we evaluated obvious candidates, the Amazon and Google as an alternatives, and basically it has come down to a few kind of
Specifics.
It's like there was no one reason why to choose the cloud, and generally all the basic services are the same, and pricing you probably can find like better price for specific things, but if you look at a broad range of services, then there is no major pricing differences. I think Google presence in our region was slightly kind of
more accessible?
Question mark, in a sense that, I mean, Microsoft is more well established, I would say, in Baltics, and then there were already some Azure services that we used for the pension company, and that was not the main driver, but we had some experience with that, and it looked like that there's also more competence available on Azure. So it was combination of different
factors. Okay, but as we also know, the financial sector, the financial industry is quite heavily regulated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did any compliance requirements affected some of the technical decisions, and how did compliance requirements affect the technical decisions at the Indexo during the development?
Well, there are two things, I would say. First of all, there are compliance of technology, or if we use extensively software as a service, so there are certain compliance requirements for those parties, but then there are compliance requirements from money laundering prevention, from regulatory reporting, where you actually need a deep expertise to be able to meet those. So there are various aspects, but it certainly has shaped some of the choices to simplify things. We have focused, for example, on technologies that are available in EU. If you want to store any critical data outside EU, it brings additional complications. There are certain security prerequisites, obviously, that we need to. Sometimes it basically means more expensive solution, because typically with SaaS services there are various levels and to meet all the security demands.
So cybersecurity is really critical for any bank. That's absolutely for sure.
And so you cannot just take a basic service, or you need typically
and what specific measures you implemented in Indexo to ensure that customer data and transactions, for example, are safe?
Well, there is a quite broad range, and then it's overarching the whole life cycle of customer and customer data, and it starts with the customer identification. It's then how we transmit, how we store data. It's complex set of requirements. Also, how we can access, who can access data, and from where. So
different security levels, who can get to what data.
yeah.
Okay. And how about the testing side? How is this security side tested for the bank? How hard it is to test it?
Yeah, well, testing is hard in all cases, not just security, but so we have so basically our approach has been we understood that we need to move forward quickly, and therefore we have selected number of partners that help us in specific areas, and TestDevLab is one of them, obviously. So that really helped us to get running quickly, because we could get expertise in area, and we continuously rely on. And I think, just to mention, I think also we try to. It's not 100% that everything is done in Latvia, but that was also one of the goals, that since we want to improve economic situation in Latvia and make a change, and we also try to find Latvian companies that will help us, and in most cases we succeeded with that in terms of IT services at least. But then coming back, so we have two partners for testing, TestDevLab, which is more focusing on functional, and some non-functional like performance testing, and then we have as a partner that is helping us with security tests and verifications.
Okay, if you would need like to rate launching a bank at a difficulty level, and for example 1 is being really easy and 10 is like the hardest level, what would be your score?
I don't know, maybe I think 8.
8
or 7, 8. I don't know.
That's not bad.
What was specifically for us, and which was, I actually very much enjoyed it, because previously in my previous work experience, I worked with large projects where you implement something new, and then you need to migrate all the legacy data. And there are established legacy processes, contracts, products, whatever, and this is very complicated part, and this is also limiting your technology choices, your project choices. And that's why I'm not saying that it was 10, because we didn't have this legacy, so we didn't need to migrate. So we were free. You
were able to choose technologies and like what you wanted to use.
Yeah, and not just choose technologies, but I mean, like even you think that there are standard IT systems, but like for example, core banking system, we have selected a SaaS solution. But I mean, every bank is special. Every bank has its unique contracts with customers, terms and conditions, etc. And when you choose a platform like SaaS platform, it's also very important to try to use it as it was meant to be used. But if you need to migrate a lot of legacy products or services, then you start a lot of developments, workarounds, and then you basically you
trying to find different loopholes how to
exactly
fetch together.
And I mean, I'm not saying that any of our selected SaaS platforms is perfect, but at least then this is how it works, this is how it's built, so let's try to the extent possible use it as is. Of course, it's not 100% always possible.
So you had like a goal, what you saw for customer experience and security, and then you just choose which platform, and based on that you went.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a good point. So what there's also a question, should we build it ourselves or should we buy it?
Yeah.
So basically what we have saw that we want to be innovative and competitive on customer engagement, which is currently mobile application. And we have invested quite a lot of time in design and building the mobile application. But then all the backend supporting services, we use external products. We obviously have made some selection process, but then we basically integrate using our Azure services and then bring those external SaaS platforms through our custom-built customer experience layer towards the
Were there
customers.
any like technical challenges?
Well, yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of technical challenges, but it's also, I mean, that's why work is interesting, that you can overcome those challenges in a way.
Maybe if you can like mention which comes to your mind first when you like, oh yeah, this was the challenge, really hard, and you all managed to fix it.
Yeah, I think working with cloud, like it's very easy to kind of create simple proof of concept in a cloud. Probably you can launch a virtual machine in minutes or put out your simple web page or whatever. But if you want to have a secure and automated deployments, security, there is a lot to build, like, for example, all the configuration as a code, where basically your infrastructure becomes a code, and that has been challenging. And to be honest, there are not many people in Latvia that have done that to that level of complexity. And there are many cases where you host your Windows machine in basically use cloud as an infrastructure platform, but if you start to use it as a service platform with serverless services, and then it is a bit different ballgame.
Okay. So in Latvia, there's not much people. Yeah. So did you like take?
But just I mean, it might sound. I mean, we have outstanding professionals in all our suppliers,
Okay.
and it has been something new to learn also for them. But most cases they have done it very successfully, and I'm actually.
How are you planning to scale the Indexo as the bank grows? What's the plan there?
Yeah, so from infrastructure perspective, I mean, we have built in scalability in a way how we have implemented it. So
you kept scalability in mind when you just started out.
yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. So from the service perspective, I mean, of course, it cannot be done in one day, but we could handle tens, hundreds, probably millions of customers. But then the scalability also has multiple levels and layers, and of course, it's not just our infrastructure needs to be scalable. It's also all the kind of external systems needs to be scalable, and that's why it's also that we paid attention when selecting those external systems, and that was one of the. And also, it's when you choose external platform, it's important to try to understand what it does best, use it as it is, and then that individual component can scale better if you misuse it, or if you build a lot of customizations, then that again a risk for those platforms. But I think that I mean, so far we have reached. Hopefully in the coming days we will reach 10,000 customers, which I think is quite good in 1 month's time. So there hasn't been performance issues on our service. We have experienced some external services that we had some challenges with, but overall, I don't see that there would be a problem to handle much more customers in our infrastructure.
What are your thoughts about the future of digital banking in Latvia? How do you see, could Indexo be leading the way?
Yeah, well, I think in some way Indexo is and will be leading the way. Of course, there are different banking needs, and there are specific sectors, maybe like old people who are not still so familiar with digital tools, or for one or another reason cannot use them. I think there will be a need for branch networks for still some years to come. Even all the banks are optimizing that. We don't plan to roll out our own extensive branch network, so we will be mainly digital. At the same time, we also want to, so like there are other services like Revolut or Wise.
Yeah, true.
And then so what we basically, we want to combine the design thinking and ease of use of those digital services, but we also want to have a presence. We have established a customer service that is actually answering to the customer requests. So we want to make that local presence in combination with the kind of easy, accessible and nice digital solutions. And yeah, I'm overall, you always want to have more, but for this first launch, I'm quite happy with what we have achieved. And I think, like, in a normal case, you actually can onboard to our bank in a couple of minutes. If you want and if you are eligible, you can get the loan in less than
Do
a
you
minute.
think that physical branches will still have a role of banking in like future, or we're moving like more to the digital side?
I think it's more a question, societal question of, I mean,
Because
current people that are currently over 60 years. I mean, they have grown up in a time where there were no technology.
True.
I think today people that grow up or are born, they are digital natives in a way.
Because right now the banks are viewed as banking as a service more platforms. So I'm just thinking if in the future
Banking as a service, I think it's used a little bit differently, but
true.
it's like if we could provide banking as a service with our technology platforms if we would like to use somebody else, but it's all our goal and what we have, I think, achieved is that everything you can do digitally, basically. And even going forward, when we will add more complex products like mortgages, etc., we would like to make sure that there is no need to come to the bank, there is no need to have a physical presence. But so I think there are two reasons why that might still be needed. First of all, is the older population that is not familiar with digital tools, and it's also maybe difficult for them to learn. That will be relevant, I think, still for quite some time. And then possibly there are some edge cases where you need to solve specific
How
problems.
does, for example, Indexo business model differs from a traditional banks?
Well, yeah, it depends.
If you can compare it like that.
I mean, the business model of the bank, in the very basics, of course, is quite similar. But then it's very different if you are if you are a branch of a foreign entity, like we have large Swedish banks, and then of course a lot of decisions are made locally, but still that the kind of the policies, that strategy is, if not decided, but then at least approved somewhere else. And for example, current problems that we see in a lending market in Latvia. So just Latvia has one of the worst lending situations in Europe. So we have among highest interest rates.
Actually, didn't know that.
We have some of the most difficult contractual commitments that customers need to accept, and also the lending availability and penetration. So if we see how much lending per capita, for example, is one of the lowest.
Does that mean that at Indexo it's going to be like easier and to get lending?
Well, it's a complicated question because yes, we want to change the lending market. Yes, we will offer a competitive lending offering. Absolutely, that is our goal, to challenge the situation, and that is why Indexo shareholders and management has decided to enter the banking market. But I mean, you still need to be eligible for a loan, and there are limits by legislation in Latvia. I mean, for example, you cannot have your outstanding monthly payments cannot exceed 40% of your income. It's not something that bank can decide. It's law in Latvia. So, and of course, if there's a person that is already owes more than he or she can pay, like, it's not that we don't want to give loans. It's
just you can't give it by the law.
Yeah, and similarly, there are other cases. I mean, if somebody has defaulted on payments several times, and I mean, we are not a charity organization as well, so obviously we have a credit policy, etc. But yes, we would like to have a competitive, and I think like we want to have ease of use and accessibility, like with the fast credits, but at the same time we want a competitive and reasonable interest rates that are comparable with established banks. So it's a kind of combination of ease of accessibility, but also...
So the main goal is to like create a seamless and personalized experience for the customer, right? So it feels...
Yeah. Well, personalization is, of course, it's a question, but absolutely, loan offers are personalized to the customer credibility. But yeah, the seamless and honest and open. I mean, if yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And what could I ask next? Regarding how much time we got? We got still 20 minutes. Okay, that's good. If we're talking about decision making, how do you approach decision making when it involves like high stakes or uncertainty? From your personal side more.
Yeah, I try to do it as structured as possible. I mean, when you need to make a big decisions, it's you need to first of all make them explicit in a sense that like if you want to describe or just write it down or draw or whatever, but basically nail it down what we will need to decide, what are the options, how we will evaluate the options, what criteria, what is important, because like if you need to choose the cloud platform or certain SaaS solution, then you need to be explicit about criteria, what will be good for you, price, functionality, performance, certain specific features. So, and then you select the options, you evaluate them, and then it's an interesting process there.
And as CTO, you probably have a lot of work to do, right? So what strategies do you use to disconnect from work and recharge? Because we know that basically you probably work 24/7, so you need to find time for yourself. And what are the strategies there?
Yeah, so the launch period itself has of course been challenging, and I hope I haven't done too much harm to my family, but overall, I try to limit work at home. Basically, like if I need to do more, I would then I prefer to stay at work and do more. Or if you're working from home, then you just don't finish the work. I don't think that it's good to kind of going
Okay.
back and forth with it.
So it's better to work in an office and go to office than bring the work to home and work.
Not necessarily. I mean, I work from home a couple of days a week, but it's not that you, for example, you work until 6 and then you go out with kids or do the dinner and then you come back and work for another hour and then you do something else and then before going to sleep you kind of go back again. I would say that like then rather work from 8 to 8 and then you close the laptop and then you rest. So it's kind of putting some borders around that. I think it's quite important and always I think that prioritization is always needed because you can always find, especially in a startup situation, you can always find something to do. But then is it urgent? Is it important and is it urgent? So basically, and obviously things that are important and urgent.
The question would be, what are you most grateful for in your life and in career? And why?
Most grateful, I would say, it's people around you, because we live in a society, and I think quite often we overestimate our own
Capabilities.
Not just capabilities, but we assign. I mean, I've been happy to be born in a good family. I'm grateful to my parents. I think thanks to my parents, I got a reasonably good education, and it's not something that you can give credit to yourself. I mean, there are other people that has been maybe in less lucky circumstances, and the same is with work. So I think I have been always quite happy to be in places where I have good colleagues, good managers, which is also very important if you are
Good mentorship.
in a early periods of your career, is that you have good examples to learn from, and I think it's sometimes also important to avoid actively some if there are toxic relationships or something like that. So I think that if what I'm grateful for people that have been around me.
That's nice. And how would you define success? What would be your definition of success?
For myself or for a company?
For your that's interesting. Okay, let's do for yourself and also for a company. Because for a company, there's probably KPIs and different metrics that you can view the data. Definitely. So let's start with yourself, and then we can switch to company-wise.
Yeah, I think I think you are successful if you are satisfied and contented with what you do. I mean,
but do we even get satisfied at the end?
No. It's satisfaction is a bit maybe misleading word, because satisfied you can be also after a good meal. But I mean, if you do a project or you do some specific work, if you enjoy the process, if you see the good result, then that gives satisfaction and I think that success to some point is related to that ability to get to that, because if you choose very simple goals or simple projects which doesn't kind of challenge you, you get the result, but then I don't think you get so much satisfaction. If you kind of embrace something that is impossible or it's too much to bite. So basically, I'm not encouraging people not to take risks, but it's if you take something too big, you will fail eventually, and so yeah, it's its ability to understand the level of risks that you want to take. It's its ability to get to the interesting
And how
projects
about
and
how about
making them
company-wise? For example, for Indexo side, what would be the definition of success?
Well, we are publicly listed company, so there, of course,
That's already a success.
it's a success, obviously, that we have achieved that, and that so many people in Latvia have trusted us and have invested in Indexo. So that is a success. But then, once we are in that situation, obviously, part of the success is to generate shareholder returns over long term. It's to have a good reputation, to be a good employer. So basically, and be good to the society, like making a difference, like we have done in, for example, pension area.
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for coming here today and being here and answering the questions. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and subscribe and wait for next episodes.
Thank you.